I was sitting in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My hands were trembling, my chest felt tight, and my heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. It was the kind of moment you see in movies, where the main character suddenly realizes their whole life has just shifted, except this was my reality. I could still hear his voice. Calm. Steady. Almost detached. Tell him you'll be free soon. Just 6 words. But they were the sharpest blade I'd ever felt. For months, I thought Ryan knew nothing. I thought I was hiding everything perfectly, the sneaky text messages, the afternoons away, the fake excuses. I'd convinced myself I was untouchable, that I could live in 2 worlds without them colliding. And then, with one sentence, he shattered the illusion. I remember staring at him across the kitchen table that night. The soft glow from the overhead light made his face look carved out of stone. No anger. No raised voice. Just this unnerving calmness that made my stomach twist. I couldn't even speak. My mouth opened, but no words came out. That's when the silence hit, heavy and suffocating. But maybe I should start earlier. Ryan and I had been married for 8 years. In the beginning, it was perfect. The kind of love you think will last forever. He'd leave little notes for me before work, I'd make his favorite dinners, we'd take spontaneous weekend trips just because we could. But somewhere along the way, life happened. His career took off, constant late nights, business trips, endless phone calls. I told myself it was for us, for our future. But as the months passed, I started to feel invisible. Like I was fading from his world, one missed dinner at a time. Then came Daniel. An old flame who popped up in my social media messages one evening. At first, it was harmless, catching up on life, laughing about the old days. But then the conversations got longer, warmer, riskier. He noticed the things Ryan didn't anymore. Told me I was beautiful. Asked about my dreams. And slowly, I started craving his attention like air. Innocent chats turned into late-night calls. Late-night calls turned into accidental meetups. And soon, we weren't just talking anymore. Looking back, I realized there were signs. Ryan started asking strange questions. What time will you be home, instead of, will you be home for dinner? He'd appear unexpectedly from business trips, a day early, a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I brushed it off as coincidence. But the truth? He was watching everything unfold. Ryan and I had been married for 8 years. We never had children, by choice, at least in the beginning. We told ourselves we wanted to enjoy life first, to travel, to focus on our careers. But somewhere along the line, that freedom became emptiness. Our marriage wasn't a battlefield. There were no screaming matches or slammed doors. If anything, Ryan was never unkind to me, just absent. Present in the physical sense, but his mind was always somewhere else. And I guess that's what hurt the most. You can get used to someone being mean. But someone being nice while you fade into the background. That's a quieter kind of pain. Then came Daniel. He slipped into my life like a song I used to love but hadn't heard in years. An old flame from my 20s, who messaged me out of the blue one night. At first, I thought nothing of it. We talked about work, about the city, about mutual friends we'd lost touch with. But soon, the conversations shifted. He asked about my marriage. I told him the truth, that it felt like I was living with a roommate who occasionally kissed me on the cheek before heading out the door. Daniel listened like every word mattered. He laughed at my jokes, called me beautiful without hesitation. He made me feel alive again. And in my mind, I twisted it into something almost noble, a lifeline I deserved, an escape from a loveless routine. It started with secret text messages. Then came the fake work dinners, the late nights out. I told myself I could handle both worlds, the loyal wife at home and the woman rediscovering passion on the side. But every now and then, guilt crept in. Like the night I came home to find Ryan in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, making my favorite pasta. He smiled, kissed my forehead, and asked how my meeting went. I lied. He believed me, or at least pretended to. Another time, he suggested we take a weekend trip to the coast. Just the two of us. I told him I was swamped with work. In reality, I'd already planned to see Daniel. One evening, I caught him glancing at my phone when I left it on the counter. He said nothing. I told myself he was just curious. Then there was the moment a friend mentioned seeing Ryan at a cafe near my office on a day he was supposed to be out of town. I laughed it off, saying maybe he came back early. But deep down, something in me knew. Something wasn't coincidence anymore. It happened on an unremarkable Thursday. The kind of day where nothing should have changed, except everything did. Daniel had texted me around lunchtime, saying he was nearby and had an hour to spare. I told myself it was harmless to meet him. Just coffee. Just a stolen hour in the middle of the week. We sat in a quiet corner of the cafe, talking in low voices. He made me laugh, the way he always did, leaning in close like we were the only two people in the world. When we left, he walked me to my car. And right before I got in, he kissed me. It wasn't a quick, casual kiss. It was the kind that lingered, slow, familiar, dangerous. I glanced around, paranoid, but saw no one. No watchful eyes. No hint that our little secret had been witnessed. I drove home thinking the day would end like all the others, a smile for Ryan, a quiet dinner, the same practiced routine. Except that night, Ryan was different. He wasn't buried in his phone or his laptop. He was sitting at the dining table when I walked in, a glass of wine in front of him. "Hey," I said, my voice a little too light. He gestured for me to sit. I did, my stomach tightening. We started eating. No small talk. No casual questions about my day. Just the sound of cutlery against plates. Then, without looking up, he asked quietly, "Are you happy, Claire?" The question caught me off guard. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. Of course, I lied, forcing a smile. Why wouldn't I be? That's when he finally looked up. His eyes were calm, steady, not angry, not hurt, just knowing. "Tell him you'll be free soon." The words slammed into me like a physical blow. My chest tightened, my palms went cold. He didn't say Daniel's name. He didn't have to. My mind raced. Had he been following me? Reading my messages? Was someone else feeding him information? I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. He stood, collecting his plate, moving toward the sink with the same unhurried grace he always had. "Ryan," I finally managed, my voice cracking. "Not tonight," he said, his back to me. And just like that, he left me sitting at the table, my heart pounding, my mind unraveling, realizing for the first time. He had known all along. After that night, I expected a storm. I braced myself for shouting, accusations, maybe even the word divorce thrown like a dagger, but none of that came. Instead, there was silence. Ryan didn't bring it up again. Not once. No questions, no late-night interrogations. It was as if the conversation, if you could even call it that, had never happened. But something had shifted. He started going out more. First it was working late, then meeting friends, then entire weekends away. When I asked where he was going, he'd answer simply, "Out." He didn't offer details, and I didn't push. Because deep down, I knew. The warmth in our house had vanished. The little touches, the casual smiles, even the perfunctory kisses on the cheek, gone. He was there physically, but it felt like I was living with a ghost who had already left me in every way that mattered. And that terrified me. I reached for my phone one night and messaged Daniel. He knows. His reply came hours later. What do you mean? I told him about the dinner, the words Ryan had said, the way he looked at me like he'd been keeping a secret of his own. Daniel's response was short. Cold. Claire. I can't handle drama. Drama. That's what he called it. The man who'd been telling me for months how much he cared, how much he wanted me, was suddenly pulling away. His texts became less frequent, his excuses more frequent. Work. Family. Not a good time. That's when it hit me, I might be about to lose them both. One evening, I came home earlier than usual. The house was quiet, but I could hear Ryan's voice from the living room. I paused in the hallway, listening. He was laughing. Not the polite chuckle he'd give coworkers or friends, but a warm, genuine laugh, the kind I hadn't heard in years. His tone was lighter, softer, intimate. Yeah. I can't wait to see you again, he said into the phone. I felt something sharp twist in my chest. Was he moving on already? The image flashed in my mind, Ryan with another woman, smiling the way he used to smile at me, giving someone else the version of him I'd been missing for so long. And the strangest part. The thought of him with her hurt more than I ever imagined it could. It was a quiet Saturday morning when Ryan finally said it. We need to talk. He didn't sound angry. If anything, his voice was too calm, the kind of calm that comes when the decision's already been made. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. My coffee went untouched, hands wrapped around the mug just to keep them from shaking. I've known about you and Daniel for over 2 months, he began. I froze. Even though a part of me had suspected it, hearing it confirmed still felt like a punch to the ribs. He reached into a folder on the table and slid it toward me. Inside were photos, me and Daniel at the cafe, in his car, even outside the small motel on the edge of town. My stomach churned. There are also copies of your messages, he continued, his tone almost businesslike. I hired a private investigator. He was very thorough. I opened my mouth to speak, to apologize, to explain, I wasn't even sure, but he raised a hand to stop me. I didn't confront you right away, he said, leaning back in his chair. I wanted time. Time for what? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. To make sure you couldn't take anything from me when I left, he said matter-of-factly. I closed on a new condo last week. The divorce papers are ready. The assets are already moved. It was like he'd been dismantling our life while I wasn't looking, quietly, efficiently, without a single warning. And, he added, I've started seeing someone. My head snapped up. She's an old friend. Someone who was there for me while you weren't. His eyes softened for the briefest moment before hardening again. Then came the blow that split me open. You weren't the only one who felt invisible, Claire. The difference is, I didn't look for comfort in someone else. I felt my throat tighten, my eyes burning. For the first time, I saw him not as my husband, but as a man who'd finally had enough. He stood, walked to the door, and paused. The papers will be here Monday. Please be gone by next week. And just like that, the man who had once been my safe place, the one person I thought would never leave, was gone. Only then did I realize I'd lost the one man who always had my back. Present day, Claire sits in her small, dimly lit apartment, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound. The walls feel too close, the air too still. Outside, the city moves on, indifferent to her heartbreak. She scrolls through her phone, pausing on a photo from their wedding day, Ryan smiling at her like she was the only person in the world. Daniel is gone, blocked her on everything. Ryan is with his new partner, a woman who makes him laugh in the way Claire hasn't in years. From the few photos mutual friends post, he looks lighter, freer, genuinely happy. Claire's reflection, she leans back, phone still in hand, and finally says the words out loud, "I underestimated him." She always thought Ryan was the type to avoid conflict, to keep the peace no matter what. She thought his silence was weakness, that he'd never suspect, never fight back. She thought she could control the pace of the downfall. She was wrong. Ryan wasn't weak. He was calculating. While she was sneaking around, he was gathering proof. While she was texting Daniel under the table, Ryan was buying his new life piece by piece, the condo, the paperwork, the clean break. And then it hit her, he didn't just leave her. He saw her for exactly who she was, and decided she wasn't worth fighting for. The sting isn't the loss of comfort, the marriage, or even the life they built. It's knowing she was once the safest place in someone's heart, and she burned it down. And when the smoke cleared, he didn't try to rebuild, he just walked away without looking back. Her eyes blur, but she doesn't cry. She's done crying. Now, there's only the slow, steady ache of knowing the man who once would have moved mountains for her has found someone else to share his life with, and it isn't her. She shuts her phone off and sits in the silence, her mind replaying his parting words over and over. "You weren't the only one who felt invisible, Claire. The difference is, I didn't look for comfort in someone else." The worst part isn't losing him. It's knowing he saw me for exactly who I was, and he didn't want me anymore. Closing question to the audience: if you caught someone betraying you, would you confront them right away, or wait until they destroyed themselves?